from the very, very beginning. Hi.
Hi.
I'm going to go tweet out some things, so I'm going to let my fellow co-host here take it away while I awkwardly look in the corner of the screen and tweet this out to everybody. Take it away, fellas.
That's perfect. Thanks, Sevens. By the way, that's the nickname that we're going with from now on.
I love it.
So
I'll take it.
Yeah. Russ.
Hey.
Awesome to have you, man. This is unexpected, but like a very pleasant surprise. I thought it was just gonna be me and Matt today. So
it is a pleasant surprise that my wife did not slap me in the face when I said, "Hey, hon, can I podcast on Sunday morning?"
Yeah, that's always the biggest obstacle for sure. So have you been watching it all? Had one of those stupid super early games that you gotta like set an alarm to go make sure that your lineups are set and everything. Tampa Bay and Carolina playing in London. Have you been able to watch any of that game?
Nope. We were talking before that we Sevens hit the go live button, but my kids have been super a-holes today, so I've not been able to even turn a TV on at all.
Yeah.
But I know
a lot. I love it.
I just know that Mike Evans is already like 6 for 130 and 2 touchdowns, so it's fine.
Is he really? I haven't been paying because I've been doing shows all day. I haven't noticed. I know McCaffrey snuck in there for a couple early in the charity league, the FFMercs charity league. I got McCaffrey and Evans, and I'm 5-0 going against a 4-1 team. So that'd be terrific if I was off to that kind of start. Nice. Oh, Evans. No, he has 65 yards and no touchdowns.
Dude, that's better than I thought he would be, so I'll take it.
Yeah, seriously, he has been just absolutely owned by James Bradberry for so long. I haven't been able to actually watch any of that game either.
6 catches.
Yeah.
I also have him in the charity league.
Nice.
Man, nice. Yeah, I was really nervous about Evans today, but I haven't been able to watch it. I don't have kids, so I don't have an excuse. I mean, this chicken video, I guess. But
talk about the chicken video a little bit.
Yeah, I'm working on tweeting it out. When I get a quick second here, I'll finish. But yeah, I mean, it's a chicken climbing a ladder. Like that's all it is. But that's honestly all it takes to distract me.
It's all it needs to be.
Even with an NFL game going on, I mean. Here's the thing, though. I would much rather watch, a farmyard animal doing really kind of any human task than watch Jameis Winston try and quote unquote play quarterback.
Well, in Mike Evans' stats, it says he has 1 tackle, which means Jameis is living up to your expectations.
Yep. So probably 1 tackle and 1 missed tackle then, because Winston, right now Winston has 2 interceptions and a lost fumble. No touchdowns. We're at 148 yards passing. So, yeah, attaboy.
All right, well, why don't we get into some like actual football talk a little bit for week 6?
Not football talk.
Well, I guess
that is not football. What he is doing is not football.
Well, I don't even know where to start here. Why don't we go with the funny Cam Newton news? Apparently he's coming back, but he's not coming back as the starter. I mean, I guess Kyle Allen has just been too great to ever replace. I mean, what do we think of this news in general? I mean, I know Cam didn't look good, but I always thought of healthy Cam Newton, which I guess most people were thinking he just wasn't healthy. I mean, what is this? If you're Cam Newton and you're not the starter, are you even coming back? Is that the ploy? Don't come back. You're not going to be the starter. Are they hoping he retires? What is the psychology here of this statement?
You got to assume he's not healthy still, right? I mean,
they just said if he comes back, he's not going to be the starter. I mean, but who would come back if you're not healthy?
Like maybe his ankle's fine, but his shoulder still isn't. So if they need him to half be a quarterback, he can be.
Yeah, I know they won.
Excuses for the dude.
I know Kyle Allen. Look at his first game; he didn't look too great. His next couple, they've won 3 straight with him playing. But I mean, I don't know. That's just weird. I mean, for that just to come out, I mean, it would be like, hey, Cam Newton's not ready to come back. That's the headline, not Cam Newton's coming back and he may not actually be the starter is a completely other weird way of phrasing it, I guess.
Go get your Will Greer shares.
I kind of like that. Yeah.
All right. So the other, whatever news that actually helps anybody. Malcolm Brown is playing. Todd Gurley is out. He's going against the San Francisco 49ers, who have been pretty damn good so far. What do you think of Malcolm Brown in general here? I mean, I kind of think this is set up where on a short week, the 49ers, on a long week, Sean McVay has a chance to exploit the 49ers. They haven't had a hard schedule so far. I think this is kind of McVay showing the rest of the NFL, hey, by the way, this is still our division, and he's just going to smoke them. Watch that come back to bite me. I'm expecting the Rams to just destroy the 49ers in this one. So what do you guys think of that game in general? And then Malcolm Brown, what do you like of him as far as a flex option?
That's probably all he is. I think he'll be a floor play as opposed to a ceiling play. I half agree with what you're saying, that this is probably the best matchup the Niners have been going up against. But I mean, I have a ton of Malcolm Brown shares, so I'd love for this just to be insane, even though I'm not starting him. But I think that defense is legit for the Niners. And oh man, Mike Evans had a ridiculously big drop, by the way. Like, he's just, yeah.
That's just making me sad at this point.
And Curtis Samuel has a rushing touchdown now. So
yeah,
oh, nice. I'll take it.
That awesome.
Also have him in the charity league.
Yeah.
Oh, completely changing topics. Sammy Watkins is inactive and Tyreek Hill is active.
Yeah, and Jonathan Joseph for the Texans is inactive. So
nice.
I don't know what you do there. I mean, it's season long. You're starting all these guys. In DFS, I'm fading the whole thing because I don't even know what the heck is wrong with Mahomes' ankle. It's probably nothing. Watch him go for 600 yards. But I guess if in DFS, you're talking about splitting hairs at the top with guys like, Deshaun Watson and Matt Ryan going against what the heck, who they face? I have like none of the matchups. Yeah.
Arizona.
So Arizona. So, I mean, if Julio Jones and Hooper and Ridley haven't all been involved in one game together so far, and probably this week is the time they're going to do it. So just all the other starters in general, I'm not going to start over Mahomes this week. What do you guys think as far as a DFS perspective? But then obviously season long, who would ever sit him? I'd start him with 2 broken legs if he was playing. The Kansas City Chiefs obviously know something I don't at that point.
Well, in regards to the Cardinals and the Falcons, I'm not great at DFS, but I like doing it anyway because I like gambling on football, I guess. So I do a lot of like 10-cent tournaments. It's my, hey, I may have lost like 6 tournaments, but at least they're only 10 cents each. But they are all littered with Falcons and Cardinals. So I am all in on that game. That is just 2 very bad pass defenses.
Nice.
But when it comes to Mahomes, who cares, man? You put that dude in a wheelchair, he could still throw better than half the quarterbacks in the league. So, yeah, I'm never worried about that offense.
Yeah, my number 3 quarterback overall for the week, Pat Mahomes. And, I mean, the only reason that he's that far down is Matt Ryan gets Arizona and Lamar Jackson is at home against Cincinnati. I mean, have to start those guys ahead of him. So, I mean, for DFS, yeah, I mean, I think I'm guessing at least that Matt Ryan is probably going to be cheaper than Pat Mahomes.
Yeah. I mean, Mahomes is still in DFS the most expensive play you can have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Matt Ryan is probably a good pivot. There are a few others too, by the way. Like, I mean, Gardner Minshew has a nice matchup at home against New Orleans. He's got to be cheaper than those guys.
Just don't call him New Orleans. Just call him PJ Williams. We all know who you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's Marshawn Lattimore. I think he might be out, right?
Is he? I didn't know.
I didn't see that.
Really?
I don't think he's out.
I mean, Xavier Howard is out.
Maybe I'm making that up.
Yeah, Xavier Howard's out. TJ McLaurin, 200 yards, 3 touchdowns. Mark it down.
Yeah, in a game, by the way, that I still think Miami's going to win. So, yeah, actually, this is a really sneaky one and really hard to get on board with, I'm sure. But, man, that Josh Rosen, Preston Williams stack is really interesting today. I've got Josh Rosen as my quarterback 11.
Like, do you
Nice.
think that they're going to be like coached to drop balls? Like, no one wants to win this game, right? Like,
well, so I mean, okay. Here's what I think is very plausible is they win this game and Josh Rosen gets benched because of it.
yeah, oh man. Like, we know they
How
want
how
to
dare
tank.
you try to play?
Yeah, we know they want to tank, but man, that is next level.
This is what I love. Here's the look on the screen, everyone. This is look at this edgy thing I just put in the chat. Hey chat, right on the bottom left. Apparently, according to we're using Restream or we're using StreamYard, which is awesome. This went to the YouTube chat. I tried to go to Periscope. It says, "Whoops, Periscope didn't get your comment. It was probably filtered. Periscope filters anything that looks like spam." A message from the host of the show was filtered as spam. Get your shit together, Periscope.
Sounds about right. No, that's
all right. If anyone in the chat, people are starting to filter in a little bit. Feel free to ask all your week 6 questions. We're just kind of rolling down any kind of interesting like news that has happened, any kind of injuries here. We talked a little bit about the Cam Newton fiasco. Tyreek Hill's going to play. Jonathan Joseph's out. Let's move on to Russell Wilson, who do you guys think is the MVP so far this season? I know it's Christian McCaffrey, Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson, and Russell Wilson. I think the top 2 would be McCaffrey and Wilson. I think to this point, who is your guys' pick so far from both a fantasy perspective and just a NFL perspective?
Wilson. It's just because we expected this out of McCaffrey. We expected this out of Mahomes. The Seahawks weren't supposed to throw the ball. They've been throwing the ball, and I mean, we've always known Russell Wilson is just damn good, but like this is next level damn good. So
yeah,
my vote is for Wilson, and also because let's face it, it's a quarterback award. All awards are quarterback awards. So
although McCaffrey's off to a pretty ridiculous start. I mean,
if anyone could do it, I'll give it to him. But he did not throw a touchdown that last game, so
he tried his best. The reason I asked Russell Wilson, they're facing the Browns, who are having a tough go. Greedy Williams and Denzel Ward are still out. The very first week they were going to be out, I thought they were going to play. And then it's been like 3 or 4 weeks, still not in. So, I mean, all systems go for Russell Wilson this week. I mean, are we expecting, at a certain point, is Seattle going to become a pass-heavy team with the way things are going? No, I mean, joking, of course, but where do you slide your guys in, like Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, or even Will Dissly? You obviously have Will Dissly's the interesting guy here. I guess this is a DSS perspective because he's must start in season long. You got Austin Hooper versus Arizona, which is probably the chalk play of the week. You got Travis Kelce versus Houston. And then you got George Kittle versus the Rams. With those guys out, do you start Dissly over any of them in like a cash game? Or you have any interest in that to try to like maybe go another direction?
DraftKings wise, Disley's only $100 cheaper than Austin Hooper, and at that difference, I'm playing the safer Austin Hooper play every time. I have
he may be 100% owned. I don't know. It'll be like 95.
It's worth it. I mean, some things are just
sometimes it is. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. You don't want to be the one guy who doesn't have him, and then you're completely out of the money, right?
Exactly. The contrarian isn't always the right way to go. Just especially at that price value. I have conceded that I've been wrong about Dissly. Dissly, I just never thought was going to be a thing. Even though he came in those 2 games last year, went nuts. So like, all right, no, it was just 2 games. They don't throw to the tight end. It's going to be nothing. But yeah, he's a thing. He's getting 5-7 targets every single game. He's the only person they look to in the red zone. Yeah, he's going to be a thing, except he's probably never going to get more than those like 5-7 targets. And Austin Hooper can get double digits pretty easily. For $100 difference, I think I still go Hooper every single time. I don't care about the ownage.
The ownage. And there will be ownage of Hooper versus the Arizona Cardinals today. Any thoughts you want to jump in, John, on the tight end situation for today? I mean, it seems pretty chalky at the top, but I mean, George Kittle, at least in DFS, he's like $2,000 less than Kelce, which is ridiculous at this point. But if you just had to pick any, let's toss Austin Hooper out of it. Let's just say you want to go another direction. He's going to be owned by everybody. Who's your favorite tight end play of the week, or at least play of the week, if you could pick anyone out of a hat?
Man, it is a little bit of a coin toss at this point. until the news about George Kittle's injury came out, it was pretty easily George Kittle over Will Dissly for me. Now the two are pretty much a coin toss. George Kittle feels like the only real slam dunk in that game between San Francisco and the Rams. But I mean, now, nursing a was it a leg injury, hamstring, something like that. So
he has a boo-boo, yeah.
Yeah. It makes him a little tough to trust. I'm fine with Will Dissly. I mean, I think that it sucks that Russ is here to hear this part, but I think that Cleveland can probably, I think they're going to keep Seattle throwing today. I think that this could be a pretty high scoring game. And to me, Will Dissly is the most likely player on either side of the ball to actually get in the end zone.
Yeah. We have a statement in the chat from FF Psychic. He wants to know, can someone ask Matt why he hates targets? Hashtag no one reads a full tweet. I'm not actually sure what you mean by that. Maybe thinking yesterday I sent out a tweet saying that CeeDee Lamb was garbage just because I wanted to see who I could freaking piss off because everyone was going crazy with how good he looked. So I assume that's what he means by that one. We have a question on Twitter here from Two Drink Minimum. He was apparently at Epcot Center trying to rub it in everyone's face that he's at Disney World. He said, Marquise Brown questionable or out. Do we get more Snead Boykin, or is Andrew going to be fed big time? I don't know. What do you guys think? Andrew still has the ongoing foot problem. He actually missed practice on Wednesday, not due to the foot, but due to his shoulder. Hollywood's out. It would be great to see Boykin get involved. If you had to place your money on one of those two to break out, who would it be? Because let's just take Andrews out of it, because if he's healthy, he's fine. Let's just talk about the two wide receivers, Snead and Boykin. Who would you rather roll with today if you had to stream someone?
Go ahead, man.
Give me Snead for the floor and Boykin for the ceiling. I think Snead is the most likely to be involved. And also, by the way, I'm not at all concerned about Mark Andrews. He's been on the injury report all season, and he's been fine. He's played well. Hayden Hurst
wasn't quite the same with the foot injury. Hasn't been quite the same guy though.
Yeah, but I mean,
that could just been because he was just that good.
yeah, but he's still been productive, and I think that he still will be. I think he's the top. He's the guy that you want. He's the top pass catcher in that offense today. I think Hayden Hurst is actually kind of a plug and play type tight end if you're pretty desperate. From the wide receiver position, yeah, I'll go with Willie Snead. I think that he's safer. He's more likely to get the targets. But I think if you're chasing touchdowns, like in a standard scoring, for instance, I think Boykin is worth a flyer.
Yeah, probably shouldn't have let you go first, because that last sentence was my exact answer.
Really?
Yeah, PPR leagues, I think it's Snead because I think he'll get more targets, but Boykin is just awesome in the red zone. He scores touchdowns. He's a big dude. And if they're not going to go to one of the 4 tight ends, it's going to be Boykin. So if you want that safe floor, I think Snead is the good idea, especially in PPR leagues. But if you're chasing a dude that has a chance at catching 2-3 touchdowns, then it's Boykin.
All right. Yeah, that makes sense. What do we have here over in this checking back in with the chat? We have FF Stompy checking in from the road. Boo these men. I love that. From Half Baked. That is always funny. I don't know why he's not here. He's apparently got some family obligations. I don't know who puts family in front of football. What kind of look at Russ. He's here. He put his family second like he should have. And he's here.
Sent those people out of the house. They're gone.
All right, we got Tay Lucas in the chat. PPR pick 2: Austin Eckler, Matt Breida, or Joe Mixon. Which I love this. I love the preface by Joe Mixon's not a bad play. I've been banging the drum on this all the time. Baltimore doesn't have a good run defense. They have very few rushing yards against because everyone throws the ball against them. They're terrible rush defense as well. They have the third least rushing attempts against them, and not because people are afraid, because their secondary is that terrible and it's been banged up. Jimmy Ward's out again. So Joe Mixon still worries me because of the game script, because I think that there's a good chance that Cincinnati's down and won't be having to run the ball a ton. But just in general, the Ravens, they're just a bad defense in general. But of those three, starting Matt Breida and Joe Mixon, and sitting Eckler, who is probably a huge mistake because I still like Eckler and he's the guy getting all the targets. But I just that's a weird situation. It's close between Breida and Eckler for me. And so actually, I'm going to reserve the right to change my mind. It's Mixon and one of the two. I'll make my mind
Don't
up.
be wishy-washy.
Yeah.
Make up your
And
mind.
I'm going to face.
Yeah.
You know what? All right, Tevin Coleman at 16 carries to Breida's 11. They're going against the Rams, who I think have a big day. Go with Eckler and Mixon. Boom.
Oh, you did change it, and you
I
had it
did.
right the first time.
No, I can't. I can't. Eckler, he's so good.
He is, but
If it's PPR, it's Eckler for PPR. If it's standard, it's not even close. It's the other two. But for PPR, I'll go with Eckler.
So Mixon is kind of the slam dunk here for me. I mean, he's a borderline top 5 running back this week. The tough one is Breida and Eckler because they're in kind of similar situations. I just think that they're kind of flipped as far as their standing within their depth chart. So for me, I mean, at this point, you got to think Matt Breida's got to be the top option. He's got to be the lead back for San Francisco after what he just did.
Did have 5 less carries than Tevin Coleman.
Yeah. And Coleman was effective, but man, Matt Breida went for over 10 yards a carry. Like you gotta, I think you have to roll with him.
I think we should probably not cite that when you have a giant run involved. I don't know the yards for carries necessarily. Like you have one carry for 100 yards, 100 yards per carry. How can you sit him?
Yeah.
Let's go down the rabbit hole of if you take this run out.
Right.
No, I'm just saying. No, they're both good. Honestly, they're both startable. They're probably the big story there is Raheem Mostert was not involved at all. So at least it's a 2-man game and not a 3-man game. We hope.
Yeah. So in here's the problem for Austin Eckler, though. First of all, I mean, 16 targets, I believe, last week. It was game script, though. They were chasing points the entire game, which as a Bronco fan is pretty weird feeling, one that we haven't experienced in a while. To lead for the entire game wire to wire like that, but I don't think that's going to be the case today. I mean, you're facing a third string quarterback. I mean, I know that those of us who like the Disney story are rooting for Duck Hodges, but I don't think that it's necessarily something that we can realistically expect that he's going to be able to, force the Chargers into a position where they have to throw the ball a lot. So at that point, I mean, when you're kind of doing, clock control, it's going to be a lot of Melvin Gordon. I think Melvin Gordon's probably the goal line back. And above all else, at this point, there's no reason not to get Melvin Gordon out there and just run him into the ground. He's in the final, 10 games of his contract with the Chargers.
So is Eckler.
Yeah, Eckler will be back though. No way Gordon comes back. So I mean, it could be a middle finger is the other thing for the holdout. All right, well, now that you're back, you're working, and I would if I was Anthony Lynn, I'd put 20 carries on Melvin Gordon every game, as long as the game script allows it.
The middle finger would be in a blowout. They start running Gordon up the middle. That would be the big middle finger.
That too. Yeah. So I mean, anyway, so to answer the question, it's close for me, but I'm going Breida over Eckler.
All right. Have we seen a ceiling for Mixon at all this season?
Nope.
I mean,
no.
With that offensive line just being a bunch of bags of sand sitting in front of Andy Dalton, and I don't know. I have
They're also wet bags of sand. Give them a little credit. They're a little more immobile than you give them credit for.
Like I have a redraft league where you only have to start one running back. So I'm like, all right, second round, I'll grab a running back and I'll be happy about it. And I grab Joe Mixon. I am not happy about it. It's rough. He hasn't. The thing is, maybe it's not his fault, but that doesn't matter. It's fantasy points that matter. I don't think Mixon is. I don't think he has a ceiling with how just terrible that line is. So honestly, I'm fine sitting Mixon here because we've seen what the ceilings for Eckler and Breida are.
All right, Tay Lucas. So I hope you feel comfortable now that you got me saying you should start Mixon and Eckler, John telling you to start Mixon and Breida, and Russ telling you to start Eckler and Breida. Hopefully,
The
you can
thing
make
is,
a
I have
decision.
often
based on-
admitted I'm awful at start splits, so take mine with a much bigger grain of salt than the other two smart people.
No, this really is a tough question, though. For all the reasons everyone said, you can make an argument everywhere.
All right, you want a good answer? Just trade one of them. Make your life easier.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, not enough time to do that in the next.
No, you
in
got
the
45 minutes. Don't listen to him. Go trade. Make it quick.
I mean, it is tough. I want to talk myself out of this so much because Mixon. I got to start Mixon. I got to do it. This is a last straw week. But, I mean, it's such a bad game script, though. It's such a bad game script. I could side. I really could see Russ's. I see Russ's point here. I really do. I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, and I totally agree too with Russ here. The thing is, Baltimore's 12th against running backs. They're giving up the 12th most fantasy points to running backs. And I mean, I think that can get you somewhere. If you're Cincinnati, you're banged up at wide receiver. You know that Lamar Jackson's going to put up points. Kind of the goal here is to keep your offense on the field as much as possible. And the way to do that is to attack that run defense with Joe Mixon. So, I mean, it could just be a ton of volume, and you might get, the points that you're looking for in the first half, and then, game script takes over. But, you've got your points by then.
Yeah. Another question in the chat from Jayhawk707. What's up, Jayhawk? He wants to know what our FanDuel cash must plays are. I don't play FanDuel. I mean, totally upfront. I play DraftKings because that's the way it is. But not much changes in terms of cash must plays. These are just basically the people the high end players or low end players that you just expect the safest ceiling out of. So as far as pricing, I cannot give you accurate information here, just grain of salt, because I do not play FanDuel much. But I will say that from a quarterback, I mean, you're looking at a pool of probably Deshaun Watson and Matt Ryan are, I think, my safest options here. I think with Greedy and William, or with Greedy and Ward out, you're looking at Russell Wilson tossing him in there. I like Lamar Jackson a lot more before Hollywood was out. And I think that's more of a Mark Ingram game. Mahomes' ankle moves me off of him in cash games. And then Gardner Minshew I like, but he's more of GPP. Do you guys have any disagreements as far as the quarterback pool of the people that are probably the safest high floor, high ceiling guys? I had Watson, Wilson, and Matt Ryan as my three kind of high ceiling, high floor guys for the week.
John was throwing his name out before, but for floor, Minshew is like the definition of a safe floor. And this week doesn't seem like it's going to be anything different. For wide receivers, Larry Fitzgerald is not priced at what he should be for this week. At least, again, I only play DraftKings also, so I don't know about FanDuel pricing. But Michael Gallup, who has the most yards per game of any wide receiver in the league, is not priced like that either. So he is in just about all of my lineups.
Yeah, and when he's in there, when they've been in the games together, him and Amari, Gallup's the wide receiver one. He has more air yards. He has more targets. He actually, I mean, for the price disparity, it's ridiculous. Gallup, this could be the lowest you see Gallup price for the rest of the year. I know he was injured and he's just coming back, but I think they're a week behind with pricing him appropriately. So he'll be much higher going forward. So yeah, take advantage of Gallup today. For wide receiver too, I know we beat this with a drum, but D.D. Westbrook versus P.J. Williams, there's no way he's priced appropriately anywhere. And Terry McLaurin, again, Xavier Howard is out for the Dolphins. Just trade Howard, just trade Drake, get him off the team. You're not, you have no interest in winning. He practiced the entire week only to sit today. Terry McLaurin, like I said, my bold prediction of the week: 12 catches, 200 yards, 3 touchdowns, F1. Let's go. He's gonna have a monster game. I'd start him in any format.
I think Larry Fitzgerald in a cash game too. GPP though, by the way, Keyshawn Johnson gets the exact same matchup that Will Fuller just torched for 217 yards and 3 touchdowns. So there's a pretty sneaky one for you.
Yeah, I mean, you can go. The boring guys are also good here. Julio at Arizona, he's expensive. Nuke 7,400. He's going to go off eventually. Versus Kansas City, at Kansas City is as good a time as any. Adam Thielen for 6,700 versus Philadelphia. Again, they have no interest in throwing to Diggs much, and you're not going to be running on Philadelphia, so Dalvin Cook may not be the easiest thing. And then of course Tyler Boyd, always undervalued here. So Tyler Boyd is always a guy worth throwing in there. Going back to running back, I know I said I love Mark Ingram. Cincinnati allows the second most points per game to running back. So Mark Ingram's great. And Le'Veon Bell, I absolutely love this week. Dallas, we know, can be torched on the ground, just like what Aaron Jones did. During Sam Darnold's first week back, I'm expecting them to probably hold back the aggressiveness with him, but who knows? A lot of people are on like Anderson because he's so cheap, Crowder because he's so cheap, but I'll go with Le'Veon Bell here. I think he's in for a pretty monster game. And if healthy, Alvin Kamara is obviously.
He is active, at least. I saw that, so I don't know if that necessarily means he's healthy, but it's good enough.
Yep. Anyone have any additions to the running back pool?
What's his name? Derrick Henry. Sorry,
yeah, that's a decent one, actually. Yeah.
The Broncos' run defense has been #not great, to be nice about it. And that offense is just Derrick Henry at this point, with Marcus Mariota being a phenomenal game manager. Not just a game manager, a phenomenal, because he has to be great at something, because me and John are here. So.
And Jayhawk is saying in the chat, Jayhawk707, Malcolm Brown must play for cash. No, he's not.
No,
he's not at all. It's a bad matchup in a game where I'm thinking that they might just be throwing a ton. I know for the price, it seems like you want to throw him in there, and he probably wants some exposure, but he's in no way is he a must play versus San Francisco.
I mean, if anything, he's a must play in tournaments, because the floor might not be there, but if for some reason San Francisco isn't as great as we thought they were, that they could just keep running up the middle and be great about it.
Yeah. The only thing, I'm trying to think of someone like one of those things where an injury made a guy must play. There's not really.
Damian Williams is back. I think he'll be the guy again. I have him in one of my lineups.
Yep. One thing, if you're looking for, we didn't talk about tight end much, and this isn't cash by any means. Cash, you're looking at Hooper, you're looking at Kittle. But for GPP, Jeff Swaim, he cost nothing for a reason. But the Saints are pretty good at defending the run, so Fournette could be in for a tougher day. Lattimore, if he's healthy, has been good the last couple of weeks. He may hold Shark to below what we expect out of him. I think Dede will have a huge game, but they like to target the tight ends there. So if you're looking to punt something and you really need money to pay up somewhere else, Jeff Swaim for $2,900, at least in DraftKings, isn't the worst idea in the universe. There's a lot of really solid tight end options. So that's purely a savior of money option there. But they like to throw the ball there, and it could line up where he sees some targets like they've been doing weekly. All right, that we cleared out the questions in the chat. Why don't we talk about the game of the week? Redskins at Dolphins a little bit here. First of all, do you guys think this is gonna be like 2-0, or do you think this is gonna be like a low key shootout? Because it could be either.
It's a low key shootout for me. Yeah, and like I said, I think Miami wins too. By the way,
Albert Wilson suiting up. Where's Sam when you need him?
Yes,
hey, this guy is equally as big of an Albert Wilson guy. Maybe just smarter with his bet making though.
yeah. I think that I kind of fed the monster on that one. I got Stompy on board, and then his booming voice just kind of echoed through the valleys. But yeah, we've both been on Albert Wilson since February. I mean, basically, really since he went down last year with the torn ACL. Before that, I mean, he was just he's the closest thing to Tyreek Hill that there is in the league right now, and finally getting him healthy, just all of a sudden that offense just gets so much more dynamic and so much more dangerous. I don't know how healthy he is, so I don't know that you necessarily want to start him just yet. Let's see it once. Mm-hmm. But I do think that he opens things up quite a bit, and he gives Josh Rosen another option. And I think it's going to take some pressure off of Preston Wilson. So that's the big one for me. That, like I said at the top, that stack of Rosen and Preston Williams is really interesting to me.
This game's probably going to be a big letdown, but I'm hoping it's interesting here. I mean, you got with Xavier Howard out, you got Keenum, Chris Thompson may have a decent day. You got McLaurin on one side, but yeah, on the Miami side, you got Rosen in there against a winnable game at home. You got Preston Williams, Devontae Parker. You got Albert Wilson. He still has Kenyon Drake. Let's see what he can do. I mean, would you even take a shot at him? And let's just say you're streaming quarterback. Is he even an option? Is he even an option for you? I mean, because there's always decent guys on the waiver wire. Let's say that let's say Minshew has been picked up. You're looking at Rosen. You're looking at Mariota versus the Broncos. You're looking at who's the Duck guy. The Duck guy versus the Chargers.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
Show some respect.
Those are your options. I mean, are you looking Rosen there?
Rosen by far for me. He's a quarterback one for me this week.
Gasp.
Yeah. Those other guys are not. Mariota and Hodges are like in a week where we have 4 teams on bye. We already had 2 teams play on Thursday night, so we were down to 26 quarterbacks available coming into the Sunday games. Those 2 guys still were not startable for me in Superflex.
Would you rather have him today or Case Keenum?
Rosen.
How about you, Russ?
We've seen Keenum do all right, and against a crap defense, it might be a good game for him to not look awful. I'm choosing my words very carefully, by the way.
For sure.
Would you start him? Yeah, he could be not awful.
he could not be awful this game.
He could be fine. So the problems for me, he's coming off an injury, number one. Number two, the whole Bill Callahan coming out and saying, I mean, the more you run the ball, the more likely you are to win. There's
never been a man I've wanted to slap in the face more.
I know. Like, that's the first thing that you say when you get the interim job. It's like, all right, this is keep your resume updated, homeboy, because this is a very short-term thing here. You're not going to get very far with that attitude.
Well, you really, I mean, if you throw out the analytics here, 2.6 yards per carry will get you the undefeated record, right? Because in theory, if you run the ball every play at 2.6 yards per carry, you'll score on every drive you ever have, right?
Yeah.
So hey, Galaxy Brain, maybe this guy's onto something.
Hey, the team to kneel the ball most in each game wins every time.
True, I find that to be quite accurate.
Yeah.
So how about let's go on to the actual game of the week, Texans Chiefs. Who do you guys? Let's start off with like a completely non-fantasy related. Who do you think wins this game in Kansas City? I'm going with Houston. I like Houston.
Whichever defense can actually do something. I mean, these are 2 defenses that are not very good in the first place.
Yes. And Jonathan Joseph is out for Houston on top of them already being bad.
Like this is the defense doesn't matter bowl, and I'm here for it because this might have more points than the Chiefs-Rams game from last year.
Yeah. There's so many question marks. What the thing with the Chiefs is they got Tyreek Hill back, Damian Williams is back. What do we get from them? It's such an unknown that could contribute so greatly to the outcome of this game.
Well, Damian Williams was back last week, and I think he out-touched most of, if not all of the running backs already. Yeah. So I think he's full play, gonna be the guy again, which is good for the one team I actually have him on because I never trusted that man. I just think this game is going to be insane, and I am here for it. It's going to be frustrating as hell for the Chiefs wide receivers because I don't think we know at all who is going to catch the ball ever. I really hope Kelsey decides to score 3 touchdowns finally and get back into being the number 1 tight end. But man, I just want Nuke to go nuts. Like this needs to happen for fantasy football in general. Like I can go on a trade-related tirade right now, but that's not this show. But it is.
If this shows anything, they're giving people advice on what to do. I told people last week.
Not producing like studs has killed mindsets in fantasy football. Like I feel like if you offered Nuke for Terry McLaurin right now, you'd get rejected. Like that's how insane people are. Nuke's not doing anything. Why would I trade Terry McLaurin, who's the newest, greatest wide receiver in the world?
Because he's catching a touchdown for DJ Chark, you definitely get turned down by a lot of people.
Yeah, so like these studs not producing like studs has just killed mindsets. It's very based on what have you done for me lately, as opposed to, hey, Nuke is awesome on an awesome offense and has been awesome for about 5 years. we can trust that because he's only 26 or 27. That is the prime age for wide receivers, everybody.
There's nothing wrong with Nuke, anybody. He's great still. And if he doesn't do it this week, I'm going to admit that there's something wrong, but it's going to be a cosmic thing. There's something cosmically wrong with Nuke that no one can explain and makes no sense because it has nothing to do with football. I don't know what's happening, but I expect him to have a big day. I've got a lot of questions about Carlos Hyde. What do you guys, because he's probably the guy in this game there is the most fringy as far as starting, right? Because everyone else you're probably starting regardless of confidence level, but Carlos Hyde is someone that is obviously the lead back. Duke Johnson should be in line for a good game if this were a team that was run by people that made rational decisions, but however, it's not, which is the NFL in general. So what do you guys think of Carlos Hyde in a flex spot here? I mean, I don't know why. I mean, I can't start him with confidence here, even though there's going to be a ton of scoring in this game. He probably could find the end zone.
Wouldn't feel good about it.
Yeah, you can, right?
We kind of saw from the Indianapolis Colts that the formula against the Chiefs is, I mean, obviously you've got to have a much better defensive game plan than Houston is probably capable of. But I mean, you keep it on the ground. Marlon Mack, 29 carries and then 3 targets to go along with it. And then Naheem Hines led the team in targets. So, you know, a lot of work for the running backs the last time we saw the Chiefs. And you know, it led to a victory for the Colts. So, I mean, if Houston is willing to, you know, to follow kind of that blueprint, at least as long as they can, Carlos Hyde is at least in for some volume. And, you know, it all starts there as far as fantasy points.
Yeah, I mean, who would you rather start? Would you rather start him or Malcolm Brown?
Carlos Hyde by quite a bit for me.
So, I mean, I think that's pretty much that's a question I've been getting quite a bit. So there's an answer for everyone listening.
Who do you want to get 9 points from?
yeah, that's actually a great way to think of it, though. I mean, who do you want to get 9 points from? But I think the chances of someone punching it in the end zone are higher on the Hyde side. So that's why I think it's a slam dunk for me. More points available. I'll go with the guy with more points available to him, possibly. The Seahawks and Browns. We already talked about Russell Wilson, Greedy, and Ward are out, so he's due for a giant game. We pretty much covered everything on the Seattle side. They're probably going to win this game.
We never said the letters DK.
I did. I just glossed over it a little bit. I mean, you're starting all your Seattle Seahawks, right? I mean, you're starting all of them against the Browns, especially with those two guys out. But on the Browns side, how do you guys feel? I mean, Baker, everyone's jumping off a bridge. Odell Beckham, everyone's jumping off a bridge. Jarvis Landry has actually found himself his nice safe floor he's accustomed to. And Nick Chubb, you don't sit regardless of who he's going against. So what do you think of Baker and Odell Beckham? I mean, we're not to the point where you can ever sit Odell Beckham yet. But talk to me in 2 weeks. I expect him to have a good game before then. I know Russ is a Seattle fan, so he's not hoping that it happens this week, but you'd think something will happen. But between the play calling and that offensive line for Baker Mayfield is who would you rather start today? Baker Mayfield or I'm trying to find a good one here. Who do we start?
Josh Rosen.
Yeah, there we go. Josh Rosen or Baker Mayfield.
All right, real quick, I want to talk about the rational football/fantasy football fans line of thought, at least what it should be.
Let's go.
I'm a Seahawks fan, in case anyone listening doesn't know that. So I have Odell. He's one of my most owned players. Odell can catch 5 touchdowns this week, and I would love it as long as the Seahawks score 6.
Mm-hmm.
Like fantasy football is pretty much my life at this point. So like, I care about what happens to my fantasy football teams. And if you check my pinned tweet, I care what happens to yours too. But like, just because I'm a Seahawks fan, I'm not going to say, oh, no, sitting Odell, don't want it to score anything. No, I want 5 freaking touchdowns because I want to win my fantasy football matchups. Just, I still want the Seahawks to win the game.
I actually disagree with you. I have Kerryon Johnson everywhere. And as a Green Bay fan, I hope he has 0 yards.
That's wrong.
0 Kerryon. And then next week, 900 yards. Make up for it.
No, see, that's wrong because it's just, that's wrong.
Baker Mayfield. Who would you rather start, him or Andy Dalton? Andy Dalton going at the Ravens. The game script is beautiful for Dalton. who do you start? You have to start one of those two. Those are your options. Baker Mayfield at home versus the Seahawks, or Andy Dalton versus the Ravens. In a game where if Andy Dalton doesn't do well, people will start calling for him to be benched.
Which is crazy. He's actually having a pretty decent season. At least
I'm just saying, though, that, I mean, Redskins Dolphins ends in a tie. All of a sudden, the Bengals are in the driver's seat for the number 1 pick. They're going to try to punt this into oblivion if he doesn't show that he can win some games this week, right?
Yeah, that's true. The big thing for me is the fact that Andy Dalton is throwing to Auden Tate, Alex Erickson.
Well, Tyler Boyd's still alive.
Yeah, Tyler Boyd's there, but
not sure if Tyler Eifert's still alive though.
Yeah,
somebody check on Tyler Eifert.
That jersey's on the field, but we don't know what
playing.
that is.
Yeah, he's playing either way, but yeah, could be a weekend at Bernie's situation.
What the weekend at Bernie's? That's so good. What the hell happened with that whole Pettis? Was it Pettis and Beckham? What with the jersey thing? He wanted his jersey back. Did we ever find out what the hell that was about? Did you guys see that?
Was that real? I read about that and I thought it was a joke.
No, it was real. They did the whole jersey swap thing. They got a pictures taken, and then Pettis whispered something to him and took his jersey back. I don't know if he had something. I don't know if it was sentimental or I don't know. I didn't hear it. If anyone in the chat knows, let us know. Speaking of which, we actually have some questions in the chat here. Hurting at running back this week with Jacobs and Gurley not playing. Can either play LaShawn McCoy or hit the waiver wire. He says Duke Johnson is available, Darrell Henderson, Ito Smith, and that's about it. Wow.
I'll start any of those guys over LaShawn McCoy.
I think of the group, I don't even know. I think Ito Smith, is the guy. I mean, Darrell Henderson seems the most interesting because I don't know, but he could get a 0. That's the only problem there. You could literally get a 0. So he's actually third on my list. So I think I'd go Ito there because
I think I'm okay with McCoy. I think you're okay with McCoy there. I mean, I know Damian Williams coming back, that hurts it at the very least. It muddies the waters, but I mean, I think this is going to be such a touchdown party. Like there are opportunities for everybody who is in line to touch the ball. They're going to be fantasy relevant today. I think McCoy is still the passing downs guy. And I think it's a pretty even split between him and Damian Williams as far as running the ball as well. I know that Williams out touched him last week, but I don't think that that's an every week proposition. I mean, I've got him ranked back to back, and I would prefer Damian Williams, but I think you're fine with McCoy.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be fine starting McCoy, but
you might have I mean, you might, some of those guys, Ito in particular is probably more boom bust. But McCoy has a higher floor, I think, by quite a bit.
Yeah. And it's been confirmed, everybody. Jameis Winston does hate your fantasy team. After throwing 3 interceptions, he does finally find the end zone and throws a touchdown to Cameron Brate.
I said no. Trade Addict 6, man. My tight end is Evan Engram, who got injured and didn't play. And I was going to play Cameron Brate, but I panicked and traded for Gerald Everett.
Well, that works out, I think, in the end for you.
Yeah, but I think it was. No,
and more importantly, Dare got his 2 catches for 21 yards. Vintage Dare, that is his stat line every week. You got to give it to him. It's almost like he gets it and then he goes takes a seat. No, I got mine. I'm not greedy. What game haven't we talked about here? Let's talk about the Eagles at Vikings. This is interesting.
Wait, real quick. Rashad Penny is inactive. That's
does that matter?
This is just turning into a blowout.
I mean, I mean, joking aside, Chris Carson's no one's sitting him anyway. Does that really change anything?
I mean,
I think Penny was probably going to be, flex consideration. Just, not that he was going to replace Chris Carson, but just the fact that, this game script could be, so positive for the running game that kind of everybody gets in a
12-team league. You thought he would be flex consideration?
Yeah.
I had him in one league out of desperation more than anything else, but it is, if you listen to Pete Carroll talk, which you should never really do, but it seems like he wants Penny to be part of the game. Probably because they were dumb and spent a first round pick on him. And John Schneider's just like, don't make me look bad. Don't make me look bad. Get this guy in the game. Get this guy in the game. But no matter how well Chris Carson does, Pete Carroll's still talking about Rashad Penny for some reason. And it's been my stance from the beginning before the season that I thought they were going to try and work their way up to a 50-50 split, which with the amount they run the ball is still not bad. But yeah, Penny cannot be on the field. Hey man, fire up those CJ Prosite shares. Yeah,
he'll no doubt find the end zone. Everybody, just know that ahead of time. Whether I'm not saying to start. I'm not. But he's gonna find the end zone. He just is. That's the way it goes. Eagles at Vikings. Very weird game. Very weird game. The Eagles are elite at stopping the run, and then you got Dalvin Cook. You're not starting him, or you're not sitting him anywhere. You can't. Doesn't matter. But what do you guys think of the Vikings wide receivers here? The Eagles obviously looked like amazing last week, but that was a totally different situation. Now they're facing talent. Stephon Diggs, is this the last week where before you start benching him? I mean, or if you already started benching Diggs every week, you have to throw him in there against the Eagles secondary. If he doesn't get it done today, is he just a guy you just sit on your bench until he's traded?
Diggs. That was. I love Stephon Diggs, and this is hurting my soul. I really want him to get traded, but I think he's a good play this week. I have him in multiple tournament lineups just for the exact reason you said. You're running the ball the entire game into the Philadelphia front seven is not a good game plan. So I think they're going to have to throw the ball more than they want to, and I'm just at. I can't remember if I'm making this up or if I heard it somewhere, but their slot corner isn't terrible, which means Thielen might get actually decent coverage. So I think this is going to be a Diggs game. And then next week, you're going to start him thinking everything's okay, and then he's going to go back to getting 3 targets. I
will say one thing. Adam Thielen only has 4 more catches than Stephon Diggs on the year. For anyone that thinks there's this giant difference, he has like a 71% completion percentage, 10% over Adam Thielen. He has 1 less red zone target. So even though Thielen has seen the end zone, I mean, he's even rushed for 1. It's not as far apart between the two as you'd think. And one giant game out of Diggs today could actually swing it in his favor for the year. So I'm not saying it has been disappointing for Diggs, but it's been disappointing overall for the entire passing game. So if you're very confident in starting Thielen, I think this week you got to start Diggs too, because in reality, it hasn't been that far apart as far as opportunity has gone.
Yeah, so I've got Adam Thielen as my number 2 wide receiver for the week. So the Eagles are missing both of their top slot corners, Ronald Darby and Avonte Maddox. So I mean all of their toughest coverage at this point. You know, I think Rasul Douglas is probably the guy lined up on Diggs, and that's still a winnable matchup for Diggs. But Thielen. At this point, Thielen's a better wide receiver, and he's got a better matchup here. I think Diggs is startable. I think he's kind of a high-end wide receiver too. But I'm at this point, I'm done with the idea that, you know, we're just waiting for the breakout and then we can sigh a breath of relief when it comes to Stephon Diggs. I mean, I think that like what we're really hoping for here is if he does have that type of game, then you've got that sell window that you can get out from under him, because I just think this is going to be an ongoing thing. I mean, we keep hoping for this breakout. When it finally comes, like that doesn't mean that, you know, he's past the turbulence and it's smooth sailing from here. You know,
yeah,
I think
I agree.
It's a 1 week thing. And
here's the mistake people will make is they'll want to sell Diggs today, and they'll have a price they're willing to accept. And he has a big game, and their price will go way up. You can't think that way. If you are waiting for your sell window and it arrives, be willing to sell him for what you were going to this morning. Mm-hmm. I think that's how you sell him. You don't all of a sudden jack up your price by a first round 2020 or something. You know, if you want to sell him now and you're going to sell him after the game, sell him for the same price. Just be willing to take it. Otherwise, just hold him if you're going to do that.
No, that's actually like really. So I had this. I don't remember where the hell I had this conversation, but we were talking about the concept of selling high on players and how that doesn't necessarily exist when you're dealing with intelligent people. The way I worded it was sell high isn't really selling for more value. Selling high nowadays is the opportunity to actually sell. Like you exactly just said the right thing. He has a good game. Don't jack up your price. Just use this as the opportunity to actually get rid of him if you want to get rid of him. Because one big game doesn't change the value of anybody. Except for Will Fuller last week.
He went from wide receiver 36 to like wide receiver 8.
Yeah, 228 yards and 3 touchdowns. You raise the price of that guy.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's what you said is exactly right. Don't jack up your price. But if you want him off your team, he goes for 150 yards and a touchdown. Just get him off for that same price because you will actually get him off your team.
Yep. Before we move on to another game here, how about the quarterbacks here? You got Carson Wentz versus the Vikings, Kirk Cousins at home versus the Eagles. Who would you in standard 12-team one quarterback? We play Superflex, by the way. But if you're into one quarterback, do you like either of those over Gardner Minshew today?
No, Minshew. Yeah, Minshew for me. He's a quarterback one. Both of those guys are kind of high-end quarterback 2 to mid quarterback 2 territory for me. It's a kind of tough matchup for Wentz. It's a good matchup for Cousins, but they don't want to throw the ball just because they can. They still don't really want to. So
I like Minshew over both as well.
It's just such a nice matchup for Minshew.
Russ, any change of opinion there?
Not really. I always want to believe. I'm a very big Carson Wentz fan, so I always want to believe he's going to be a quarterback one. But that defense, man. If anything, Minshew will just be the safest play out of the 3 of them. So I would probably choose to start him over them.
Here's a question from Jack Humphrey in the chat. Big Giants fan from over in the UK. What's up, Jack? He has a question here. This is a lot closer than it should be due to the week it is. Matt Breida or Kenyon Drake in PPR?
Drake's been getting the ball more and more, and the Washington defense is not very good.
Yeah.
But I still go Breida.
Yep. It's close though.
It is. I don't know. Let's just say because never mind. It doesn't line up that way. I was hoping they were both games are in the afternoon, and that's not the case. You got to make the decision soon. Yeah, you got to go with Breida. I was going to say if you're getting buried and maybe you needed a monster game, maybe you try going riding Drake, but you can't even make that decision. So it's Matt Breida. Falcons at Cardinals, which I don't know, could be higher scoring than the Houston game, the Houston Kansas City game. Matt Ryan is definitely one of the starts of the week. But what about Kyler Murray? I think this is lined up to be, even without Christian Kirk, possibly without David Johnson. It looks like he's going to play, though. It's lined up for Kyler to have his first full ceiling game of his career. He threw the ball a lot early on. He still is. He showed off his wheels last week. He almost had 100 yards and a touchdown, just shy of that, versus the Falcons, who are just dreadful. They're just literally garbage on top of garbage, below some garbage. So what do you guys think of Kyler Murray in terms of all the guys we've mentioned so far at quarterback? I mean, he's pretty much a QB. I mean, does anyone disagree? He's a kind of a lock for QB1 this week.
He kind of always is, isn't he?
Not necessarily, at least in a lot of people's eyes. I mean, who would you rather start? Who's an interesting one here?
I mean, I would start Kyler over the 3 guys we've been talking about. Wentz,
let's just say you happen to have a team where you have 2 quarterbacks. You got to start one. And you could have landed this if you because I've seen a couple of people ask this question. This doesn't pertain to many people, but it's an interesting question nonetheless. Who would you start this week? Kyler Murray at home versus the Falcons, or Dak Prescott on the road at the Jets?
Can I go back to my answer before and saying just trade one?
Which you should. But I don't know if you happen to have that kind of decision, I mean, you have Kyler Murray. How about this? This is a more realistic one because how about Kyler Murray at home versus the Falcons, or Aaron Rodgers at home versus Detroit?
I'll let you two answer that one first.
I've got Murray over both of those guys, over Rodgers and Dak, and it's game script is a big part of it. I mean, Atlanta's not gonna put them in a position where they can just run the ball and grind the clock. This looks like it's going to be a shootout. Neither team has any interest in playing defense. So, Murray has to keep throwing. He has to keep running. Plus, there's some major touchdown regression coming for in the passing department for Kyler Murray. I mean, he's the quarterback 8 right now in fantasy, despite the fact that he has I believe, the lowest touchdown percentage among starting NFL quarterbacks.
Besides the Miami quarterbacks.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, he's at 2%, around 2% touchdown rate, which is, I mean, well below league average. Yeah, it's and there's no way that continues. At some point, those touchdown passes are going to start coming, and I mean, I don't know why we wouldn't, assume that it starts here against a team that, again, just gave up 3 touchdowns to one guy.
Yeah. I love you say I'm not interested in playing defense. I don't know why that made me laugh so much in my head. I'm picturing the halftime interview when they're running in. Hey, coach, you thinking about making any alterations on defense? And he's just like, I'm not interested in playing defense.
We don't do that here.
Yeah, I know. Like, have you been watching the game at all? Does it look like we're trying? There's a reason. There's a reason for that. 49ers at Rams. We beat the running back situation for San Francisco to death. No reason to talk about anyone else on that team, to be honest. You're starting George Kittle. Everyone else is bleh. How about the Rams here? Brandon Cooks is back. Todd Gurley is out. How do you feel now about starting Woods and Cooks? Are they definite every week people you absolutely must start against San Francisco, who I personally don't believe in as much? I think this is their reckoning week where they finally face a good team. I think they're going to have – I'm not saying they're bad. I'm just saying we'll get a better idea of just how good they are. But are those two guys must starts every week for you now? I mean,
they always have been for me.
Are they like today? Like, I'd love to come up with a good example of who you might like. Here, this is a good example. We already said Ward and Greedy are out for the Browns. Let's say you have Robert Woods. Are you starting him 100% over DK Metcalf today? Because there's a good example of that's a decision you could be making. And sorry, I picked out a Seattle guy. Maybe that was mean of me.
No, because like the truth of the answer is I don't really like starting Seahawks because here's another way of being a rational fantasy football and football fan. I remember one year I drafted Steven Hauschka on my fantasy football team, who used to be the kicker for the Seahawks, and it felt like the dumbest thing in the world for me to be rooting for the Seahawks to kick field goals. Or like when I had Doug Baldwin on my team and Tyler Lockett would score a touchdown, I don't want to be upset that the wrong person caught a touchdown. I just want to be happy that the Seahawks caught a touchdown. So I stopped getting Seahawks on my teams.
Oh, I drafted Aaron Jones everywhere. And then last week, I'm just like, ha ha! And it's like the best thing in the universe. So, I mean that sometimes lines up quite nicely.
Being a Packers fan.
Which is why Jamal Williams,
that guy, too much.
Hopefully Jamal Williams is fine. He's back this week, but this is also why I get annoyed by his usage quite a bit.
It's a roster construction thing. If you need that ceiling, you go with DK. If you need the floor, I think Woods is the right call. I still start the Rams wide receivers every single week, assuming you don't have a ridiculously stacked wide receiver core where you have someone super awesome that you could also put in.
I think that kind of answers the question, though, where you even said you can consider DK. It makes it where they're already possibly in that territory. And if it comes up again where Cooper Kupp is the only one who has another consistent game, that you can start to actually consider based on your matchup. And, if you need to go for high ceiling, that you can consider sitting them now. I think we're at the point where people could theoretically start doing that, where last year it wasn't even a consideration.
I guess I backed myself into that corner. So yeah. The thing is, it's not the Rams matchup that I care about. It's it's the fantasy matchup. Like you were saying before, if you wait till the afternoon to pick who you needed to start, like if you're, 8th in points for and you're playing the team that's 1st in points for and they don't have any bye weeks, you're like, all right, I need to score 10,000 points. Let me put in DK, who has the chance to score 8,000 points.
8,000 points. It's a lot.
He has that chance this week.
John, anything to add about the Rams wide receivers?
Cooper Kupp is a slam dunk starter. The other two, I'm fading them only because I don't know who gets Richard Sherman and who gets. I think Akeli Witherspoon is out again, if I remember right, and I'm not even totally sure who his backup is. So one of them gets a nice matchup. One of them gets a pretty tough matchup. The other problem is when you're talking about perimeter receivers against San Francisco, I mean, it gets tough because that pass rush is so good they force you into quick hitter type throws, which is why slot receivers and tight ends really do pretty well against San Francisco, where those perimeter receivers don't. So it makes it pretty easy to stick with Cooper Kupp, and it makes it really tough to figure out who between Cooks and Woods, who's going to be the guy who's actually going to get open fast enough to get the ball before, Nick Bosa and those guys get to Jared Goff. So
Yeah.
I'm fading him just because I can't really decipher it.
It's too big of a headache. I just don't want it. By the way, Periscope is now getting double messages because apparently my messages are no longer spam, according to Periscope. So if you're wondering why we're not talking about Malcolm Brown, we've already talked about him several times. We talked about him earlier in the show. If you want to hear more stuff, listen to the whole show. Show up earlier next time. Where have you been?
We're here the whole time. Why aren't you here the whole time?
Yeah, we're here 11:30. I mean, warm up your pizza rolls in the oven later. It's game time. Like
pizza rolls sound good though.
Yeah, right. Titans and Broncos as we round out the rest of the games here. This is a sad game. Cortland Sutton and Emmanuel Sanders. Are they just? What do you do there? I mean, the Broncos have been passing actually quite a bit, but you can't really trust anybody. The only must-start player is really Philip Lindsay at this point, correct? Will the other guys be borderline?
Wide receivers every week if I have them. So I start those wide receivers every week if I have them.
Oh yeah, I think it's one of those things like a lower degree of the Woods and Cooks situation where it just depends on the matchup here. But yeah, I think in most situations you're gonna have to play them both. From the Mr. Broncos over here, Mr. John Hoke, what do you think of your Broncos today? I actually like Noah Fant quite a bit as a streaming option.
Yeah,
I think that the Titans are susceptible in that one area versus the tight end. And if he's going to break out 1 week and you have a bye week situation where you're staring at some terrible options, Noah Fant may be a good option.
That's by far the weakest part of the Tennessee defense. So yeah, I like that one a lot. He's a low end tight end one for me this week. But yeah, Philip Lindsay he's still running back too. I wouldn't say must start, but I mean, I think that he's pretty startable, especially this week with some pretty tough matchups. Cortland Sutton is the only receiver that I'm really interested in. I think that Emmanuel Sanders is probably going to see a lot of Logan Ryan. And this could be a really ugly game just in general. There's not a whole lot of offense on either side.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. The only reason I feel confident starting both Sutton and Sanders only because it's kind of a two-man show, at least so far. I understand the matchup definitely for this week. But I mean, they're the only two guys really getting targets. I mean, red zone targets. You got Sutton with 8, Sanders with 9, and no one else catching the ball, really. There's like no one else. Royce Freeman is next in line. And then as far as overall targets, you got Sutton with 39, Sanders with 35, and then the next person who's not a running back is Noah Fant with 16. So it's just like a two-man game there completely. On the Titans side, is there anything besides, we already talked about Derrick Henry being always a fine play. Are you, as someone who supports Marcus Mariota quite a bit, are you happy to start anyone there? I guess Delaney Walker being the one standout option is probably decently safe.
And I don't even know how safe he is. I mean, it's our player pool is really watered down, so that makes him startable. I think AJ Brown actually is probably the best bet in that passing game, just because lining up in the slot. I think Corey Davis is probably going to be the one who gets Chris Harris. There's not a lot else in that secondary. I mean, they've been good. I just don't know how when they're throwing out, Duke Dawson Jr. on the slot receiver. I don't know how that's working, but somehow it's working. So I think AJ Brown probably gets a good matchup, but I mean, I'm still very hesitant to even start him.
How about you, Russ? Is there anything that you like on the Tennessee side? I mean, is there anything you like on the Tennessee side any week?
More importantly, Dare touchdown.
No, really?
Yeah. 3-yard touchdown, baby. There's
All
that
right.
ceiling. Bam. Number 1 waiver wire pickup. Go for it.
Just hit the ceiling.
No. If I have Mariota as like my bye week fill in Superflex, I mean, I'll play him over a random like prayer of a positional player, but I'm not really thrilled about it.
Yeah, I mean that kind of sums up the entire game. Cowboys at Jets. We talked about this earlier. I think Le'Veon Bell is actually in for a giant game. What do you guys think of the rest of the? What do you think of the passing attack? Sam Darnold's back, hoping not to die in the field. We think Jamison Crowder's probably the only option here with Chris Herndon still out. And we don't think maybe his strength will be there for Robbie Anderson. Do you guys generally agree with that? And if you do, are you even starting Jamison Crowder? Or is this a let me see what the hell Sam Darnold looks like? I will completely pass on this for the week.
That one.
I'll start Crowder this week. I've got him kind of in a flex range. I mean, the last time we saw both of these guys on the field together, Crowder got 17 freaking targets. I mean, Sam Darnold is just so locked in on him. If Chris Herndon was out there, I would feel like there's somebody else that Darnold might pay a little bit of attention to, but without Herndon, it feels like the only guy that they're going to target is Jamison Crowder. Dallas isn't great against slot receivers, so
let's say you have Jamison Crowder, and then you also happen to have maybe you picked up both DeMarcus Robinson and McCole Hardman. Sammy Watkins is out. Tyreek Hill is back. Do you take your shot on either of those over Jamison Crowder?
I would take. Yeah, I think Crowder gets the bench there out of those guys.
You just start either of them. If you have either of them, start them both.
Yeah, I think so. And
Hardman, Crowder, Robinson is my list. My order for that one.
Interesting.
That's probably I'm gonna stick with what I say. I'll stick with the Chiefs. Just the game script, but I mean I think that you've got a pretty safe floor with Crowder. I could definitely see taking him over, a more boom bust Chiefs receiver.
Yeah, and the Cowboys we don't have to dive into unless anyone has a revelation they want to drop anyone on why you shouldn't play them all. You're starting Amari, you're starting Gallup, you're starting Zeke, you're starting Dak. Yep. I mean, we could talk about Jason Witten if anyone in the chat wants to hear about him. If I guess,
I want nothing to do with Jason Witten. By the way, he gets exactly 4 targets every single week.
But
at least one of them's in the end zone, though.
Yeah, he finds the end zone.
It's been a couple weeks, but yeah.
All right. Hey, 15 minutes to go. We're actually like 2 games to go. I accidentally ran us into a pretty solid time. I don't even know what you want to call this.
Just take credit for it, man.
Yeah,
don't
exactly.
leave that word accidentally out there. Look how good you are at pacing.
Hey, I look at the matchups. I look at the clock. I've been doing pretty good here. Steelers at Chargers. Duck Dynasty. What's his name? Merrill Hodge.
That's it.
Close enough, yeah.
All right, we'll go with that. How are your confidence level here? James Conner, I guess you're just going to start because Jalen Samuels is now out. So, I mean, James Conner's fine. But where's your confidence level for everyone else here? Juju is still getting most of the targets. He looked okay when he came in for Mason Rudolph. I don't know if this is more of he did a good job against a team, game managing. They didn't know who he was. They didn't know how to prepare for him. But do you start anyone versus Juju you're starting. How do you feel about like Deontay Washington? How do you feel about Vance McDonald? Like, are these guys that you're starting at a flex, or are you kind of going out of your way to not play them?
Hodges looked like he was willing to throw the ball. It might not always be a great throwing of the ball, but you're not. I sat okay. Full disclosure. 2 weeks ago, I sat Juju in a redraft lineup, and I felt awful about it, but it ended up being the right move. I like the idea of Hodges over the idea of Rudolph right now because Rudolph didn't throw the ball more than 6 yards, but Hodges looked like he was willing to throw the ball. So
let's say you're stacked at wide receiver and you actually have to make the choice. I don't know why you'd have a really good team if you did this, but let's just say you have to make a choice. You gotta start Juju or Calvin Ridley versus the Cardinals.
Oh, Ridley.
Yeah, Ridley. It's actually kind of close for me though. I mean, I think what Pittsburgh could do here is put Juju back in the slot where he succeeded for so many years, and and avoid Casey Hayward. And also that's kind of the way that you neutralize that pass rush of the Chargers, which is kind of all they've got. So I think there's an opportunity for some volume for Juju. So I feel okay about him as kind of a mid-level wide receiver too. But yeah, I would take Ridley in that shootout.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm bringing that up. I was about to bring up, who do you like more, Juju or Gallup? I mean, again, who's making these decisions? Who's sitting? No one's sitting Juju. No one's sitting Juju this week. I'm assuming if you're going to sit Juju, let us know in the chat. We'll talk about it.
I would still take Gallup, but I will say, like, that one's close enough. Same with Ridley. Those are both close enough that, you know, if you're looking for a safe floor because, you know, you've got a lead, then you go with Juju. If you're chasing points, like if you were, you know, you started Josh Gordon or something and got his less than a point before he got hurt, then you go with, you know, Gallup or Ridley and go with the high upside.
All right, the last game of the entire week 6, you got the Lions at Packers, which I will abstain from starting off because I'm obviously a Packers fan. I will say
you think Carry-on's going to run for 0 yards?
0 yards. But I think this is going to be a low-key horrible game. I actually think division game at Lambeau, I think it's going to be low scoring. So I'm not that pumped about anybody. I know you can look at it on paper and think Aaron Jones and Carry-on are probably going to be fine. And they, you know, you're going to start them both. But other than that, I'm not too happy. I'm not too happy about this at all. I mean, Carry-on's going to get Jair, who everyone wants to point to last week. Amari Cooper did not torch Jair Alexander. Jair actually didn't play man on him much at all. When he did, he actually did a fairly decent job. And that was a weird game script game. You know, they shut him down in the first half. Cowboys scored 0 points. So Jair is still a very elite cornerback here going against Golladay. So, I mean, what do you guys think here? Outside of the 2 running backs you're starting no matter what do you see here in the Lions-Packers game you think people should know?
With Adams out, I kind of have been feeling safe starting Jimmy Graham, even though I never feel good about it, but I feel like he is still safe, which he hasn't been when Adams has been on the field. I've been sort of out on the other wide receivers on Green Bay for the entire season, just because I never know who to start, so I don't start any of them.
Here's the problem with all of them is MVS, Graham, and Allison. They only catch half the balls they're thrown, and it's not Aaron Rodgers' fault. I don't know what the deal is, but these guys just cannot catch the ball. It's literally a 50-50 coin flip whether they catch the ball every time it's thrown their way. I mean, look it up. Their completion percentages are 51, 56, 52. So MVS and Geronimo operating in the 51 and 52 range. That is not going to get it done, everybody.
Nope. The Lions, yeah. I mean, I'm never benching Golladay at this point. I don't think the matchup changes anything for me here. This might not be the high-scoring game you wanted to, but yeah, I play all the players I was going to play before. This matchup doesn't change anything for me.
What do you think, John? I will say between the 2 wide receivers, by the way, Geronimo and MVS, Geronimo has actually seen a lot of end zone targets. He has seen 5, which is 1 shy of the team lead, where MVS is not getting a look in the end zone at all. So there is at least something, you know, to be said about Geronimo seeing some looks there in the end zone. If you're looking for like a sneaky flex option in a deep league.
Yeah, and I'm not totally sure which of them gets Darius Slay. I would think MVS, since Allison works more out of the slot, but one of those guys gets pretty much neutralized. And either way, I don't really want to start anybody other than the running backs. Aaron Rodgers, I'm going to start losing credibility over this, but Aaron Rodgers is still a quarterback 1 for me. But it's just he's going to spread it around so much without Devontae Adams there to be the primary target. It just gets spread around so much that, you know, the running backs are going to catch some passes. Jimmy Graham gets involved. There's something there for MVS. There's something there for Allison. Robert Tonyan all of a sudden looks like a pretty serviceable tight end. So I think that there's a path for Aaron Rodgers here to be a quarterback 1 without any of his targets being particularly useful to us.
I hope so. I mean, we said it all. This is the basic thing because everyone has pretty much said this at one point. You have a game where the best wide receiver on each team is going to be neutralized by an elite cornerback, and you're going to have two running backs that are going to be looking at probably stacked boxes maybe the whole game, trying to run the ball. So, I mean, this has the makings of a sad affair. But, yeah, I mean, the guys that are starting are guys you start every week no matter what. So you're kind of like force-fed into it, unfortunately. But, you know, that's kind of is what it is. That brings us to the end of the Week 6 slate. Do you guys have anything you want to add before we end the broadcast and get to kickoff?
Miami for the win.
Miami for the win. I do have Washington like many others winning that game, but that's only because they're the only team trying to win. I think the Dolphins will bench all their players at halftime if they have a lead.
Yeah, that would be. I'm here for that as well. That'd be an interesting news cycle for sure. But no, I think Miami can win this game. I think Josh Rosen is going to start to show them that they've got their quarterback. Use that high draft pick somewhere else, maybe for an offensive line to keep him healthy.
Hey, by the way, thank God Christian McCaffrey won't have to face the Buccaneers again this year, and it's over with. You got to commend them on their complete dedication to stopping the run. 22 carries for 31 yards after they already smothered him in another game. I mean, they are going to lose this one, but it's not because Christian McCaffrey. They went in with a game plan to stop him, and it did not matter because Jameis Winston pulled a Jameis Winston today. 4 interceptions.
4 interceptions plus that lost fumble. 5 turnovers. That pretty much just he threw for 351 yards, and it gets negated by all the turnovers.
More importantly, Mike Evans 9 for 96 and a 2-point conversion.
He's alive.
Hey, Matt LaFleur, go talk to the GM. Have him send a 3rd-round pick over to Tampa Bay for OJ Howard. Let's see what the counter.
Any
is.
team, seriously.
I mean, 2 catches for 35 yards in this one. Come on.
So there were 2 rushing touchdowns and 2 receiving touchdowns by the Panthers.
Yeah.
Only 2 people scored touchdowns.
Yeah.
McCaffrey ran one and caught one, and Curtis Samuel ran one and caught one.
Yeah, and it's actually funny. This is a horrible game, but like in the charity league, I got McCaffrey, I got Samuel, and I got Evans, who despite Jameis Winston does have 96 yards, and Chris Godwin also has 111. So I mean, I guess you can live with that for sure. 8 and 9 catches. So yeah, that. Do you have anything? I know I interrupted you, Russ. Do you have anything interesting to say before we sign off and bid everyone adieu?
Go make some trades. Never mind. Deadline passed.
The deadline passed.
Yeah,
all right, everybody. That does it for Week 6. Thanks for listening to FFMercs Live. If you want to follow any of us on Twitter, you can find me at MATTWI77IMS. Also at FFMercs, at FFMercs. John, where they can find you?
At Superflex Dude and on the Superflex Super Show 5 days a week.
Russ, where they can chase you down and scream from you.
I am at Dynasty Outhouse on the Trade Addicts podcast with my boy at Brian Hart FF. I've stolen the Dynasty Game Night show, so I wasn't on the last episode. That's because they changed the clock on me, and I wasn't able to make it at that time.
It's like, what happened? Yeah. Well, I hacked the website, and they didn't fight to get it back, so now it's mine.
Yeah. They're like, wait, you're willing to do work? We'll let you host. Okay, sure. So yeah, that's what I do.
All right. If anyone needs some help with their leagues, we always do these free shows every week. But if you need some in-depth breakdown of your roster, who to start, sit, what trades, take a look at your dynasty team. We'll tell you how to break it down, rebuild, restart, whatever. Go to ffmercs.com. We are here to help you, and we've been helping people all season long. Go to ffmercs.com or follow us at FFMercs on Twitter. Good luck, everybody. And hopefully you don't have Jameis Winston in your lineup. You can enjoy the rest of your day. See you, everybody.
Peace.